so we've talked about the honeymoon stage where things are just wonderful and they're perfect and you're perfect. And then we've talked about the Laurel and Hardy stage, which could be a few months later, a few years later. But for a while now, people have been swinging these psychological ladders. They've been stepping on these emotional paint cans. And the key piece, though, is that people are still friends, still on the same team, still in love with each other, still wanting the relationship to work. The problem, though, is if the Laurel and Hardy stage goes on too long, if people don't talk through and work through those ladders and those paint cans, they're going to move towards the Three Stooges stage, and that's what we want to talk about now. Now, the key piece about the Three Stooges, if you remember those films, is that unlike Laurel and Hardy, who much of their humor was built around, quote, accidents, the Three Stooges really go after each other. Yeah, there's some accidents, but a lot of the time they're hitting each other in the ears and on the head and putting fingers up their nose and whacking each other around. It is intentional. So the point here is, in a relationship, speaking metaphorically in relationships, that when people have gone too long through the Laurel and Hardy accidents, after a while, this is no fun. People get tired of this. Their feelings grow cold. The whacking gets old. And people then move into a place where the other person is the problem. The other person is at fault. The other person is the enemy, if you will. People are less willing to talk through things. People are less able to talk through the issues between them. And, very important, people then often either intentionally go after each other, or they don't stop themselves from letting that anger or that hurt or that resentment, whatever it is, to leak through into the relationship. And in the extreme cases, and I don't mean this literally, but metaphorically, that psychologically or emotionally, they will pick up the knife that's always on a table in a relationship, meaning two people very quickly learn each other's vulnerable areas, and those vulnerable areas are right there and right exposed, and people are not hesitant anymore about really going to hurt somebody or to anger them or to push their buttons, and that becomes a very dangerous place in a relationship. Now, if you watch a lot of television or film, this is a stage of relationship that often gets portrayed. Why? Because it's conflict. It's full of conflict. It makes for the best television, the best film. And just to give you two examples from film, classic movie from many, many years ago with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? And more recently, you saw a similar kind of movie in terms of the conflict between Leonardo DiCaprio and Cate Blanchett in Revolutionary Road. And the key pieces here is the people have drifted apart. They are no longer friends. They're no longer on the same team. They are going after each other. They consider each other the enemy. And their relationship becomes a battle zone, if you will. It's very, very tense. It's very difficult if the people have children, for the children to grow up in this kind of a battle zone relationship. Many of us did grow up in that. It's hard to, because we incorporate that energy. We see people yelling at each other or not talking to each other. In one way or another, there's enormous distance between them. And unfortunately, at this point, the chances are that people do not have the skill to really work it through. It takes an enormous amount at this stage. And people often need to go to a third party, to a counselor, to a psychologist, to get somebody who is objective and can really guide them through this. And typically, one or both people may not want to do that, and then the relationship is really, really in trouble. And that's what then would bring us to the fourth stage, which is the resolution stage, and that's what we'll talk about in the next video. One last point before we get to the resolution stage video, and that's to ask yourself, as honestly as you can, are you in a relationship right now, and are you in the Three Stooges stage? Do you feel blamed by your partner for what's not right in the relationship? Do you spend time blaming your partner for what's not right? Do you spend time thinking or talking to friends and using phrases like, if only he were different, if only she were different, then we'd be okay and we could move forward in the relationship? Those are all clues that you really are in the middle of the Three Stooges stage, and that you pretty soon are going to be heading towards the resolution stage, and that's what we'll talk about now in the next video.